Well, as I see it, my role as Vice-Chancellor in the University of Brighton has been to establish a proper development and alumni function, but also provide the leadership across the institution to make sure that this activity is really something that everybody across the institution engages with, and work very closely with Sam Davies, the Director of Development and Alumni in the university, and her team, creating the leadership and the network of contacts and the strategy for the university in development and alumni.
Well, I'm extremely lucky because Vice-Chancellor Professor Julian Crampton, he's extremely supportive of what we do, and he realised that the university was lacking in the fact that it didn't have a department dedicated to engaging in fundraising and alumni engagement activities. I arrived just as the scheme started. I was establishing an office that hadn't existed before. I was asking people to think about activities which they were uncomfortable about and they weren't really sure of and they didn't necessarily agree with. So having the incentive, both internally and externally, of the match funding has been absolutely brilliant. I've been able to work with academics such as Professor Adrian who have just loved the idea that they can leverage the value of the donations they've received. And so it's a win-win situation. You know, I'm not raising money for my office, I'm raising money for the university, and 100% of the funds raised, including the matching, have gone to the areas, the projects such as diabetes research, or the scholarships, or the other areas of activity.
The support of Sam Davies and her team in the alumni office has been absolutely vital for the Brighton Diabetes Research Group, because what they've managed to do is been able to raise funding from volunteers and from philanthropic giving, and be able to match this funding with governmental support, which means we've been able to retain a particular key member of our research group, one of our postdoctoral research fellows, and she is actually pivotal to all the work that the Diabetes Research Group does. And you have to have a senior researcher with laboratory experience actually looking after the groups of PhD students and running the projects. And that's what Dr. Claire Marriott does.
I've been very fortunate that the matched funding scheme has actually been able to fund me in my position for a number of months. So it's been able to keep me working sort of between projects, work on a number of different projects. So one of the projects that I'm really interested in is we're trying to reduce the number of animals that are used in research. We're trying to improve cell culture models which are used in research to make a more clinically reflective picture without the use of animal models. And these models can be applied to diabetes research, to cancer research.
I think within the University of Brighton, the impact of the match funding scheme has been really, really important in galvanising what we've been doing. One particular example is our work in diabetes, where the match funding scheme has really allowed us to expand the activity and the fundraising and the funding going into that research, which of course is having a profound impact and very relevant impact on direct patient benefit in this particular disease.
My name's Cathy Doughty. I live locally. I'm the chair of the local diabetes voluntary group. I've been living with type 2 diabetes for 5 years. It doesn't really impact on a day-to-day basis because you learn to exercise and pills and diet and that sort of thing. But the real concerns for me are the long-term problems, the silent diabetic retinopathy, diabetic neuropathy, which I'm personally beginning to get now, and it's scary because I know that ultimately, unless we have new treatments and stuff coming along, I'm going to end up without legs and without sight and probably without kidneys. That's scary.
And we got to take a tour of the facility, which was extremely interesting. It provided a lot more knowledge behind what the research development is out there. As a diabetic, you always are looking and searching to determine, what's new and what they're actually doing, not only, to cure it, but the additional research that's done exactly around that. And here they provided a brilliant tour and a lot of very interesting information on exactly what they're doing.
our local group has donated some money towards this Brighton University research, and it was actually nice to see that our money is actually translated into this research, and it just makes it more real, more personal to me.